Okay, so this is a video to show you how to disassemble this 30-inch Ice-O-Matic cuber, the new CIM Elevation series. We're going to go through how to disassemble it completely and then reassemble it. So the first thing to know is we can back out these two screws on the front panel, this screw and this screw. You don't need to remove them all the way, just back them up a little bit and the panel will just slide up and you can place the panel right on the top, and that will give you access to the whole freeze zone and the whole food zone of the ice machine. The parts disassemble pretty easy. We're going to take this top panel and just slide it back a little bit like that. This baffle comes out this way. The water curtain itself will just come up. You can see on the side how it sits inside of these grooves. So we can just pull it up, slide it back and out. At that point, we also have the curtain, the water curtain and the curtain switch. This will just pop out on one side like this. You have to open it a little bit, push the tab in like that, and then the other side will just pop out the same way. We have the water distribution tube and the actual tubing itself. These are two different pieces, so we can disassemble it from here, pull it right out like that, and then there's a coupling right here that we can disassemble it from here. Just pull it out immediately like that. The water distribution tube itself, it just snaps in right here. You can just pull in one tab like that, pull it out, just like that. And then this thing comes apart. It just unassembles like that into 4 different pieces. Then the water trough is the last thing to come out. This one's a little bit more tricky. So what you want to do is you want to grab the trough itself, pull it back, let the back of the trough fall. It's a good idea to put this tube inside like that. Let the back of the trough fall, push it back, and then just pull it out. Now it's completely disassembled and ready to be cleaned. Now we're going to discuss getting the water pump out and then the water level sensor or the float assembly, same thing, talk about removing it as well. So with the water pump, what we'll want to do first is come in here, pull the water tube off like this, and then we're going to twist the pump counterclockwise a little ways until it just falls out like this. Once it does, the wiring harness is going to follow it, and you just squeeze those tabs, pull it loose, and then the water pump will come right out like that. So now we're talking about the float assembly or water level assembly, and this actually comes out from the side and the bottom as well. It has 3 wiring harnesses. So I'll show you on the side. What you'll want to do, here's the top of the float assembly, but let's disconnect the 3 wiring harnesses first. These are 3 separate wiring harnesses that are completely different, so they can only be plugged back in to the right connector. So this one will just pull out like that. You got the second one, which pulls out like that. And then the third one, which will pull out like that. That's disconnected. Now, we can just push that tab in like that, and then reach around the front and grab it. You can just pull the assembly out like so. The last thing to remove is the remaining water line assembly, and that just pulls out like that. Now the machine is completely disassembled from the front. Okay, now we'll discuss on how to disassemble the float assembly and the parts that are inside of it. First, we'll talk about this is the water level gauge or adjustment, and you can see that there's a plus and a minus. So right now it's set all the way to plus, which has the most water in the water trough. And when you push that up, that gives it the least amount of water to make a slab of ice in the trough. And that is the adjustment, just like that. So to disassemble it, we have these clips on the side. You just kind of want to push in this side like that. And on the same side, on the other side, the same thing. It comes apart like that. Got a high float and the low float. These floats come out of here. You can see that that's what actually holds it in. So if you twist it, it'll just come right out like that. And then that's your high float assembly. So now we'll talk about removing the low float that actually has the adjustment lever on there. And what you'll need to do is just pry that a little bit to come off. So just pop right off like that. And then the float assembly itself, you push that through from the back. You just push it through like that, slide it off. Now that's your low float. Okay, the only thing that's left is the anti-slush thermistor. That just pulls out like that and just slides up. You can set that to the side. And then now the float assembly has completely been disassembled. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to put the float assembly back together. Okay, first we're going to start with this one that holds the slide for the low float. This here, we will slide that in this way until it kind of just snaps back into place right there. Like that. Okay. Then we'll put the control back. And that goes in there and pops right on that. Like that. Move it around, make sure it's working again. Now we'll install the high float, which again has this. It goes right into the open slot. Slide that in and turn it to where it locks. Set that in place. And now we have the anti-slush thermistor, which goes right into the little collar there. Slides that in. Put that back together. Now we can marry the two. Make sure that's up there. Lock that in place. Okay, now we'll discuss reinstalling the float assembly. First thing you want to do is make sure that the adjustment arm is faced front. We'll take the wires and push the wires through the hole that they came from. Go ahead and grab them, pull them up, and you'll see the white tab there. Just get that lined up and just pop it right back into place, all three of them. All right, so now we're going to discuss reconnecting the wires from the float assembly. Notice this is a 2-prong connector. We'll go right in there. This is a 3. Right in there. And then another 2-prong. That is wired completely together. Now we'll discuss reinstalling the water pump assembly. What we'll want to do is connect the wiring connectors first. And as we're installing it, we want to make sure that the smell adapter is in the 1 o'clock position. Let's go ahead and pull the wires first. Just reach in there, grab the wiring harness. We're going to plug that in. sure it locks in place. Again, we're going to want that male adapter to be at 1 o'clock. Establish at 1 o'clock, and then we're going to turn it clockwise. And it's going to lock in about that point right there. So again, it's just a twist lock. Once it's in there, you twist it clockwise, and the male adapter will end up about 4 o'clock, and that's how you know it's right. Next will be the water pump tubing. There is a male adapter right behind the float assembly where this will go into. So we'll come up right behind it and just slide it on there. It just slides on. This tubing goes this way, and then the other side of it will go right to the water pump. Install just like that. This will be exactly like that. Next, we'll install the water trough. And how we want to do this is these 2 slots in the back of the water trough, they are made to fit into these slots in the base of the ice machine right here. And that's what holds it in place, right? So as we're putting it in there, I will show you how to install them, but that's the key to holding the trough in place. So the best way to do this is we want to come in at an angle like this, twist it to the front. We need to make sure that we're behind this tab on the right and this tab on the left. The easiest way to do this is to take the water pump line, and just kind of slide it into the trough like that, and then grab it from the bottom and the back and just kind of push it in an upward angle until it gets past the back. Push the front down, and then push it back into those grooves that we just showed you. Then you can pull the water line out again like that. Now we'll put the water distribution tube back together. And what we want to do is we want to start with the bottom. You'll know the bottom is the one with the holes in it. Okay? We want to start that way. Start with the middle piece that has no holes in it and also has a female here and a male here. So this sits in here just like that, kind of locks in place. Now the inner one with the holes in it goes on top of that, spring upward. And then the top piece that has no holes in it goes like that, just like that. So we'll take that and install it into these grooves here, and you'll actually hear it click when it's in place. That. Now the water tubing line, we'll put the top in like this. We'll save the clamp for the last. Run this over here. And then to install the bottom goes right into this barbed fitting. Mash it in place. Put this back into here. And then lastly, we'll just squeeze that clamp closed. Next will be the water curtain. What we're going to do is install these tabs into these female sockets, and on each side, there's one on each side. So we will slide that into place. The curtain has to be in the upward position like this. Lock that one in, and then those will be popped in, so they're just locked in right there. Next will be the splash guard. So on these grooves on the side, we want to line it up in the middle of this channel, and then ultimately slide it back to lock into these grooves here. As so we'll start in the middle. We want to make sure that the water tube is on this side of it. And then as it slides back, slide it down into those grooves. So lastly is the top panel. We want to make sure it's in this position with the trough upward. So this goes up here and just slides right into place. And you'll feel it lock into place on these tabs right here, just like that. Now it is locked in, completely assembled. Okay, now we'll reassemble the panels. All these panels are held in place by these studs, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. So the top panel has to be installed, laying it over the top, pulling it from back to the front, and laying it over the side panels. To reinstall the front panel, trick is this groove on the very top of the front panel has to fit down inside of this groove on the top panel. And it all goes, lay it flat on there, and then just slide it down. And kind of pull the top to make sure that it latched in there a little bit. At the same time, you're sliding it over these screws on the bottom, this screw and this screw. Once you're in there, just give the top a little yank, make sure it's locked in, and then tighten these two screws down.